Representative Karen Bass, chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, is a sponsor of that bill, and she joins us now from Houston, where she's attending today's funeral service for George Floyd. Congresswoman, good morning. It's great to have you with us. We've got a lot to get to, so I'll jump right in. We are 2 weeks and a day from the death of George Floyd, but you've been at this reform effort for more than 4 decades. What's different about this moment, and what's most important about the legislation you've introduced?
Well, what's different about the moment are the thousands of people that are protesting in every state in the United States and around the world. So I think that the tragic death, the fact that the world witnessed a man be murdered on video camera, has sparked a national movement, and it's a rainbow movement. And I'm hoping that that's going to give us the momentum to get the legislation across the finish line. And in terms of the most important aspects of the legislation, it bans chokeholds, it bans no-knock warrants. When I think of Breonna Taylor being killed in her sleep, when I think of George Floyd and Eric Gardner, they would be alive today had this legislation passed previously.
When you call it a rainbow coalition, I'm curious, does that rainbow include enough Republicans for this to pass? And I ask in particular because Mitt Romney, who has marched in the movement and is basically an ally or presented himself as such, he says this is a message bill. What's your reaction to that?
Well, that's his opinion, but I will tell you that when I have spoken to Republicans, now I spoke to them before the bill, when the bill was still in its conceptual stage, and I haven't met anyone that was not horrified by the brutal murder, that is not really questioning now. I think it's time to do something. And so I am hoping that what everybody has learned over the last few years, when people have seen video after video after video, that now is the time to act. And it's my hope that my Republican colleagues will understand that this is not an anti-police bill. This is a bill to support police departments, to allow officers the ability to have the training and the certification like any other profession. Lawyers, doctors, nurses, beauticians, all have to go through training and have certification, and police departments should too. Anytime you have a profession that can kill, that profession needs to have the utmost standards, and a certification process, training, support, that was what we believe will be helpful.
Yeah, Congresswoman, I mean, the question hanging over all of this is, why does it keep happening to black men? You mentioned those videos. It can sometimes seem like Republicans and Democrats don't agree on the underlying issue, what the problem is. President Trump says 99% of cops are great people. Mitt Romney says a majority are terrific people. Do you agree with those statements?
Well, I don't know about 99% of anything, but I do think that the majority of police are well-intended. But it's the police culture that needs to change. Everybody saw the 75-year-old man knocked to his feet where he hit his head in New York. You saw an officer reach down to render assistance and another officer pull him up and say no. Then you saw the police report that the man had tripped. I think that's something that has been different while the protests have taken place. People have seen the police engage in brutal suppression of the protesters, and then when they find out how they officially reported it, they reported it and it wasn't true. Now, black communities have been saying that for years, but I think in the last couple of weeks, the world has also witnessed that. We saw a reporter being arrested while he was reporting. It was an African-American reporter and a white reporter. The African-American reporter was taken to jail. Same station, both doing the same thing in the same space. And so I think that this has been exposed now to the world, and I think that it's time for us to act, and I am really hoping that the public sentiment will carry us over the finish line. And when I've talked to some of my Republican colleagues, some of them were former police officers, some of the Democrats were former police officers. We have Republicans whose children are police officers. And I think, yes.
Well, I apologize for interrupting you. We're up against the wall, and I do want to get to the question of defunding the police, because it's something that your opponents have used to criticize you and Democrats overall. You are against defunding the police. You want to flip the funding, however. Can you tell me what the difference is?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think some people are calling for defunding the police in one way. What I am supportive of is the fact that it's time for us, and by the way, this is included in the bill. The bill provides funding to community-based organizations to come up with innovative solutions. If there are problems in a community, maybe they don't have to be addressed with law enforcement. Let me give you a perfect example in Los Angeles. We have a jail that is composed almost of everyone who is incarcerated actually is mentally ill. We have a homeless problem. Is that really the way to solve those two problems? Can't we look at other things to do? Now, you hear police officers complain all the time. I'm a police officer. I'm not a social worker. Why should I be doing this? Well, that's exactly right. So maybe there needs to be more resources put into communities versus increasing police department budgets. So defunding the police department, eliminating police departments, absolutely not.
But shifting where that funding goes and maybe the number of officers and the jobs those officers are doing, maybe it sounds like. Representative Bass, thank you very much for being with us. We appreciate it.